Welcome to Roundtable Talk, presented by the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty. This is a podcast where JCPS students get to talk about topics that matter to us. In a world where we hear from adults about things that directly impact students, this is our opportunity to have our voices heard.
Welcome to Roundtable Talk. My name is Lamanda Moore Rodriguez with the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Poverty, and I'm here with my colleague.
Hello, my name is Greg Van. I also work for Diversity, Equity, and Poverty. I oversee the Black Student Unions, Black Male Achievement, and some college access programming. And I'm excited to be a part of the Roundtable Talk podcast, something that Lamanda wanted to do for a while. And we're excited to have students here with us. So we'll actually just introduce ourselves and let you all know what the purpose of the podcast is. And then our students will go in and tell you who they are and a little bit about themselves.
My name is Samaj Ellis. I'm in the 7th grade, and when I get older, I can see myself, or I'm considering being maybe a politician or something to do with the government or politics. That's something that I consider doing. I feel like it would just be a good way to help the community and to help America itself. I'm from Western Middle School for the Arts.
Hello, my name is Julie Robinson. I go to Central High School. I'm in 10th grade, and 10 years from now, I see myself being a civil rights lawyer because I feel like it's important for people to know their rights and for everybody's rights to be protected.
Hello, my name is Prisha Tyagi. I'm a freshman at DuPont Manual High School in their MST program. 10 years from now, I hope to see myself with a degree from an Ivy League. And, some people ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And honestly, right now I'm looking into business, but whatever job I do, I hope that whatever it is, I'm able to create some type of really big impact in the world and create some change in the world. And any job that gives me that, I will be very, very satisfied and very, very grateful.
Hi, I'm Kadia. I'm a sophomore at Central High School. I'm in the pre-med program in my school. I hope to become a neurosurgeon so I can combat racial disparities in the medical system.
Hi, I'm Michaela Moneypenny. I am in 9th grade at Seneca High School. In 10 years, I'm not really sure where I see myself. I still don't really know what I want to do as a career. I'm still trying to figure out my interests and things that I want to do. But hopefully I'm successful and doing something that I love.
So today's topic of the podcast is specifically going to be dealing with COVID-19, which is so relevant to us right now. Specifically, the topics that we want to dig into with you all today is how COVID-19 is either having some kind of impact on your mental health and just your quality of life. So think about over the last year or two, think about your school, your experiences, the people that you know, but think about yourself specifically. When it comes to COVID-19 and mental health, how are you dealing? How are you feeling? We want to hear what's happening.
Okay, I'll go first. Personally, for me, COVID it's kind of like stressful. It's getting better because I'm able to do stuff, but I know during NTI, especially for high school during my freshman year, I spent most of my time on a computer, and it's kind of hard to try to get a whole class to talk to each other and communicate, and we're talking through a screen. And I wasn't able to do sports or anything, which sports, I've always played sports my whole life. So that's kind of how I get my stress out. So it's like I kind of had to hold everything in and kind of deal with it. But this year it's getting a little bit better. The vaccine and stuff is out. So I'm able to go out and do a lot more things. But it's just very stressful. And I feel like last year also for my freshman year, I didn't get to experience high school my first year like I should have. Like I missed out on learning school songs and all that stuff. So it's kind of hurtful a little bit, but hopefully it gets better.
So Julie, how did you deal with that? What are some things that you did to help with that?
Honestly, I think it was good that I was able to talk to some of my friends. Because some friends that I met from school, like during NTI, we would make group chats and stuff, and a lot of us would be on the phone all the time, and then sometimes we would be able to hang out with each other. So just being able to share our emotions with how classes are going, and even being able to help each other sometimes over the phone, that helped a lot, knowing like, I wasn't by myself.
I can go ahead and go next. So like Julie, I can definitely relate to like, missing out a lot of school activities, especially because my entire eighth grade year and partially my seventh grade year, they were all online. I didn't go hybrid. So missing that graduation and stuff like that did kind of, a lot of us were kind of mad about that. Um, but I was really lucky to be my eighth grade year in COVID. So that way I knew everyone by that time.
Nice.
And then I know Julie talked about how she did more like sports and stuff, and she couldn't do any of those due to COVID. I've been more on the academic side of things, but even then, a lot of things like shifted and became really different. Like for example, debate. Like we had one debate left before the end of the season, and then COVID just came, and so everyone was preparing and everything, and then just out of nowhere, everything is gone. And then we had our Kuna conference, and then that shifted online. Science fair even became online. And so because of that, a lot of us students had to be really resilient during that time, and having to adapt to all these new format changes, date changes, and all of that. I think that was another really big thing that a lot of us faced during the pandemic.
Wow.
I would like to chime in. I was also, my seventh and eighth grade year were pretty much ruined by COVID. And I would say that quarantine really helped me realize a lot of things. I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to be involved, like, to be this good friend, a good student and stuff. So when quarantine happened and I had all this time to myself, it really made me realize that I've been distracting myself from prioritizing my mental health. And I still struggle with it even now that it's been like a year or so. But it's just when I had all that time to myself, I was like really thinking. And seventh grade was not a good time for quarantine. I had so many missing assignments. It wasn't funny. And I'm usually on top of that stuff. I'm usually a good student. But when we went online, it caught me so off guard. I just was not prepared at all. And I'm like a really consistent person. I like having the same schedule. I like doing the same things. I don't like when things change, like within my schedule drastically. And when a pandemic happens, it really does take a toll on what you do. And seventh grade was just not that year for me. And I really do still struggle with some of the effects after that, to this day, because now going back into school and having that consistent schedule of waking up at 5 a.m., I haven't been motivated. Every day I like sleep in until 5:30, barely have time to get ready, almost miss my bus.
Wow.
It's horrible. But I know that it's something I need to work on. But from what I know, a lot of my friends were failing NTI even in eighth grade. And that's when I was able to, get back up. I stayed on top of my stuff in eighth grade. It was really seventh grade that just was not my year. But the pandemic has really changed me a lot. And I'm kind of grateful for it in a way because, I have a lot of realizations of what I've been doing. But it still kind of sucks because, I'm not enjoying school as much as I probably would have if it weren't for the pandemic. I'm not as motivated now, but I'm still trying to work on that, get more involved, and better my mental health, just so that I can have my good mental health, balance everything in my life, and not have to struggle anymore. So
you all, I'm hearing you talk. First of all, I appreciate how you came to some realizations, about yourself and how your mental health needs to be prioritized. And that was something that you recognized within yourself. And so I'd love to hear from Samaj in just a second, but something you all, you mentioned was thinking about how different your year would have been from the way it was. And so after we hear from Samaj, I want to know, is there anything that maybe you really did miss out on?
During COVID and during NTI, it was just kind of felt isolated. I didn't have my teachers or anything. And me as a person, I have trouble staying help, especially over a phone or over a computer. I just feel like it was just not a good experience, And especially when it rolled around, as soon as I was about to go to middle school, that was my first year of it was my first year of an entire new level, you know. So it just didn't feel right, you know. It's my 6th grade year, my first year in middle school, and I couldn't even experience it in the building. I feel like it's just really, and I just feel like it's hurting a lot of students with their work, and uh, it was just an overall bad experience for me. A lot of missing assignments. I had to go through a lot of stuff with my schoolwork, but when we got back into school, I feel like I'm having more fun and I'm doing better, and it feels like it just feels better. It doesn't feel as bad as NCI was. Uh, it's definitely a good experience to be back in school, especially my first full year in middle school. But COVID really just took a toll on me, and I know it took a toll on a lot of other students in JCPS.
Mhm.
But I hope other students are starting to do better, also like me.
Yeah, and so that's interesting that you said that because, you know, some students are okay being online. They're okay being by themselves and working independently, but there are some students who need that connection. They need to feel the school, hear the school, see people, have conversations. And I can absolutely identify with that. You know, there's something very impersonal about just looking at a screen all day. So I need that interaction in order to keep me engaged, right? Because if we're not engaged or interested in what we're doing, you know, that leads to those missing assignments. It leads to, you know, me being out of the loop. And so I'm glad that you all found kind of not a happy place, but a place where you can succeed even amongst all of the things that have been thrown at you over the course of this year. So I want to think a little bit about the conversation of, you know, getting some help. So if you are feeling like, you know, things are just too hard, you know, I don't want to do these assignments, I'm not motivated, what do you feel like you had an avenue to ask someone for the help that you needed? At your school, did you know of someone that you could go to, an adult, a friend, whoever? Did you have someone that you could go to if you needed some help or you knew of a friend that needed some help?
Me personally, I did because my freshman year, well, it was online, but I became really close with my gym teacher. So I have her phone number. So anytime I had a question about anything, I knew I could contact her. And actually, all of my teachers, for that matter, except one of them, but most of them, I knew I could reach out to them through email or in class. But I feel like it depends on the student and how close you are with your teacher. Because I know I'm very interactive with my teachers.
Mhm.
So like all of my teachers knew me by name because my camera was always on and I participated a lot. But yeah, I feel like I had all of my teachers behind me. If I knew I had a question about anything, I wasn't scared to ask. They would help me. Or if I needed to stay after, they would be like, okay, that's fine. We can talk about it.
I love how you have that relationship with your teachers. Did anyone else have some of that experience or a different experience?
Well,
I
yeah.
I had that experience. I was really close with actually, yeah, whenever I joined BSU in seventh grade, like I had this amazing social studies teacher, and she was probably the most open-minded person and selfless person I've ever met in my life. She always cared about her students. She was very involved in our school, and she always wanted to learn more about the students and what we had to say about a topic and what was going on in our lives, rather than just like completely ignoring us and just going on with a lesson. And I mean, at the end of the year, whenever it was like the last day of school in eighth grade, because I went back in person, um, she like gave me this big bear hug, and she gave me her phone number, and she said how proud of me that she was. And she really did make a great, like, comfortable and open space for her students. And she really, on like most teachers, like they're okay, but she really tried to create a connection with each individual student so that, you know, they had trust in her and that we could come to her if we ever needed anything.
I love that. I hope other students have that same experience. Samaj, you wanted to weigh in?
Yes, I just wanted to say I feel like I've had that experience too, you know. Whenever I need help, I can always go to my parents, my mom or my dad, but whenever I need help in school, I have a science teacher. She's really nice and she's open to other thoughts and she doesn't judge. Um, I I just feel like she's really good at helping, and she never gets down on you if you mess up on something. She's always like supportive of all of her students. She never treats any students different, and she's just an overall very good teacher in my opinion. And I feel like if I need help with anything in school, I can just go to her.
That's
I
great.
love it.
That's great. So I had a question. I know Lamanda and me, we're a little bit older than you guys. So when we were younger and in school, middle school and high school, there wasn't a big topic around mental health and self-care. So I want to say the definition of self-care. The definition of self-care is the process of taking care of oneself with behaviors that promote health and active management of illness when it occurs. So it says when it occurs. So that means that you may not be feel like you're struggling mentally right now, but a week from now you could, or maybe you didn't before COVID, but then after you get the announcement that y'all going home today and we don't know when y'all coming back to school, then you start to feel an anxiety or depression and all that kind of stuff. So I want to ask y'all, a lot of your answers had to do with reflection and thinking about, yourself. And I want to ask you, is there anything that you learned during COVID or during the pandemic that you do now that you feels like made you a better student or a better person? So self-care may be something as simple as now I take walks. I know for me personally, during the pandemic, being in the house all day, what I started to do was sometimes I would go in my backyard and just walk around the backyard. And I started to realize just being in the sun and feeling fresh air was good for me, especially when I'm sitting behind a computer all day working. I had to take 5 to 10 minute breaks to get some sun, get some fresh air, and all that kind of stuff. So my question is there anything that you do now that you learned through the pandemic that has made you a better person or a better student? And I think we'll start out with Katie on that.
Okay, so for me personally, during the pandemic, it was just really hard for me. And I've always been a person with high expectations of what I want to be and what I want for myself. So I was one of those people that would work and work and work and work and work and just nonstop for hours, then go to sleep, wake up again and work. And I never really allowed myself room to breathe. And I never really allowed myself room to take in what was going on around me or room to even really deal with how I felt. So for me personally, one of the things I learned during the pandemic was to be able to take breaks, to be able to give myself a minute to reflect or give myself a minute to just relax or do something that I like doing or just giving myself a break. Another thing that I also learned because of the pandemic and having like a year's worth of time, to be honest, really to myself, other than my family members, was that you can't really be there for everybody. And sometimes you have to prioritize your self care first because you can't be there for everybody if you're not mentally there for yourself. So one of the other things I had to realize was that sometimes you have to be there for you first before you can give to others. So I think that kind of made me a better person in the sense that because I'm there for myself and because I have the time to breathe, I can also be there for the other people around me.
And I love that. I listen to a lot of interviews of entertainers and athletes, and that's something that they pretty much all said is that they were so used to being so busy all the time that they've never just sat still and enjoyed their home or not like been on the road doing tours or having to do interview after interview and all that kind of stuff. But we don't think about that as just quote unquote normal people that just go to school and go to work and have our own life. You don't think that people like us need to sometimes slow down too and just reflect and have some peace and some stillness. So I enjoy hearing that from you. Go ahead, Michaela.
I don't really know 100% if this counts, but during the pandemic, it really showed who my true friends were. So, yeah, like during quarantine, I know at least 5 friends just completely stopped talking to me. Now, I don't know the full story if like they had something going on or they just couldn't talk or whatever it was, but it really did show who wanted to stay in my life and who didn't. And that also made me realize that like, you cannot continue putting so much time and energy into people and not get that same thing back. because I used to be like so fixated on, being this like good friend, and I would send paragraphs even if the slightest thing was wrong. I would always be there for them. I would express my, love and my appreciation for them being in my life, but I never got that back. And during quarantine and like all of that, I've learned my self-worth, and I do recognize that if you are not going to give me that same energy, then we should not be talking, because I'm so like, it's important to me that I make sure that everybody knows that I'm there for them. But if I feel as though I do not feel like I have someone there by my side, I don't think that we should be friends. It's it was just it's really hard for me because it's straining, continuously putting all of that energy into people, and I never get that back. So it's very hurtful. And because of that, actually, I just completely there's about 2 times during the pandemic that I just logged out of Snapchat, didn't get on Instagram, didn't text anyone. I just took all of that time to myself to like reflect, hey, what am I doing and what can I work on to be better for myself and better for other people, but without putting so much pressure on myself and setting such high expectations to be such a specific person. And actually, recently, I just logged back into Snapchat after a good like 3 or 4 days of not being on there, just because I needed time to focus on my schoolwork and focus, on the things that I'm currently doing in the present and not doing through a screen. Because I love communicating with my friends. They have my number, and if they truly do need me, I told them, text me on there and I'll see what I can do to help you. But I need this time to myself as you would need me to help you with that. So please respect that and let me do what I need to do.
Michaela, you started that out by saying, I don't know if this counts, but anything that you do that makes you feel better counts. So also after the definition that I read, it says all individuals engage in some form of self-care daily with food choices, exercise, sleep, and even dental care. So anything that you do that makes you feel better, that counts as self-care, and it's important to do that. A lot of people don't realize the effects of social media, but if you're constantly scrolling all day and seeing other people's, because of course on social media we put our highlights and the best things about our life. If you're constantly scrolling, seeing the highlights and the good parts of other people's lives, then that can have an effect on you, because you feel like your life isn't as good as that person when all you're seeing is snaps of their day or a picture of something that they're doing. So I think that's important, and I'm so happy that you came to that realization, because some people don't realize when they're scrolling, they're actually making themselves feel worse. It's not, and of course I have social media, so I'm not saying that it's all bad, but it's definitely important to take those breaks. So I appreciate and I'm proud of you for doing that.
And can I just say that all of you who have talked, Katie, I think you started us off with just learning some really important lessons that, this pandemic has, helped you kind of weed out who's there for you, who isn't there for you. And those are some important lessons to learn early. So count yourself lucky, because I'm not sure if that's a lesson that you would have learned, this early in your life, but that is something that just knowing, who is there for you, understanding that what you put into a relationship, you should get out of that relationship. These things are lessons that are going to help you in the long term. So I'm sorry that, that had to happen. You may have lost some friends, but in the long run, you're going to see how that was beneficial for you. So you all are mature beyond your years. We appreciate this conversation. You all have been so open. We appreciate that. So on this note, we would love to just highlight and do a shout out.
Yeah, so what we want to do at the end of every podcast is to shine light on somebody or somebodies in JCPS that have, done something special or exceptional. So with our topic today, there's a story on Wave 3 News or wave3.com. The title is JCPS Student Thanks District's Mental Health Program for Staying on Straight and Narrow. And there's a student, I believe his name is Shantez Towns, who's now a senior at Fern Creek High School. And he basically credits his mental health counselor, Chip Cosby, for helping him turn his life around and get on the straight and narrow and he just basically helped improve his life. So I want to shout them out because we know that mental health is definitely important. And we want to shout out those people who are working in the field of mental health to make a difference in JCPS students. And we also wanted to provide a resource. So for mental health supports for Black and Brown people, you can get free counseling at Spalding University. Dr. Stephen Nifley leads the department that does that, but it's Spalding University. They provide that free counseling. And I want to leave students, hopefully students or even adults who listen to this, I want to just debunk 3 myths about self-care. So self-care is selfish. That's a myth. When you make time for yourself and get sufficient rest and exercise, you feel more energetic and will be able to do more for yourself as well as for those around you. And you heard that from the students, Michaela saying that she had to make sure that she felt good, and even Katie, that they felt good so that they could do more for themselves and for others. Another myth, self-care is a one-time experience. Looking after yourself is an ongoing practice in building resilience to face hardships and in preventing burnout. So it's not something that you do one time and then you start telling yourself, well, I should feel better because I went on a vacation, or I should feel better because I took a break last week. No, if you need to take another break, you need to take another break. And the last myth, and this is from mymindoasis.com, self-care is time consuming. That's a myth. Self-care does not require you to take a huge chunk of time from your busy day. So sometimes it's just closing your laptop, turning the light out, cutting on your favorite song. Sometimes it's laying down, closing your eyes for a few seconds. Like I told you, I did go around the backyard and walk around for 10 minutes, whatever you need to do. It's not time consuming, but we all have to make those conscious decisions each and every day if it's needed to make sure that we're doing something to make ourselves feel better. So thank you all for tuning in to our first complete episode. You can look forward to getting these once a month. And of course, thank you to Lamanda, Dr. Sharif, and our beautiful students and brilliant students. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be a part of this. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time.